Especially in your situation, you were wounded, and you know, although you wanted to continue serving, you physically weren't able to anymore.
I was for a while. So I got hurt in February of 2005. The 14-year anniversary was earlier this month. And it took me about 2 years to work my way back to where I would become operational again. And I did one more deployment after I got hurt. And then at the tail end of that deployment, that was just the end of it. My body wouldn't tolerate it anymore.
And this is because of the metal fragments, or like what is it totally? There was a nerve damage?
It was so I got medically retired, which is not based off of any one instant, hopefully. I mean, people who have, they get an IED strike and they'll become a quad amputee or a triple amputee. That's one incident that they're going to get retired for. For me, it was more the culmination of a lot of things. So the gunshot wound obviously didn't help. And then the operational history of exposure to explosive blasts, the concussive forces, all of those things just kind of added up. I went through a 30-day protocol where they baselined me and took a bunch of tests and basically came to the, you know, they write out a massive document of all the things that they were able to at least document. Like for me, I can't get an MRI because I still have metal in my body from ferrous metal from the round that clipped a piece of rebar on its way to me.
Oh, wow.
And it clipped my sciatic nerve on the way in, and they're concerned that if they image me, or what I've been told by the doctors, if they image me, it might react again with my sciatic nerve, just pull a piece of metal by it, and I'll be right back where I was. I had drop foot for about 6 months.
And drop foot is when your foot just stops working.
Totally hangs. I could always push down, but I couldn't lift it up.
That's a thing that's happening now in MMA quite a bit. It's happened several times where guys get low calf kicked, and there's something about chopping at the nerves behind the leg that guys' legs are just, their foot's going limp. It happened to Michael Chandler. It happened to Henry Cejudo.
Are they recovering from it?
Yeah. I mean, it's in the middle of the fight. So they get
so it's just
kicked, and then
momentary.
the leg just stops working, and they can't stand on it. Their foot just literally doesn't react anymore.
So frustrating. So for me, I got shot in the hip, high up on my left-hand side. But by the time I made it to the hospital, my single complaint was my ankle. I was telling her, like, I didn't remember falling on my ankle. I didn't remember hitting my ankle, but it felt like somebody had taken a sledgehammer and just beat it into powder. And so they were very careful, and then, you know, they cut my shoes off of me, they cut my pants off me, and the first thing they did was take an x-ray of my ankle, and they're like, dude, you're totally fine. But it felt like it was destroyed because it was the nerve that got interacted with high up. It short-circuited it all the way down to the terminal point of the nerve. And for me, it never came back. I'm hoping that, obviously, for the fighters, it eventually comes back, because I had drop foot for 6 months to a year. I eventually was able to start dorsiflexing my foot again, but I still can't feel my left leg from the kneecap down on the sciatic side. The far left-hand side, and as it wraps over the top of my foot, is completely numb. And
is this because of the actual damage to the nerve, or something touching the nerve?
They don't know. That was an interesting part of being hurt as well, is talking to people who have decades of medical experience and having them look at you and go, I don't know.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Especially without an MRI, right? Because they can't.
They can't, and because they're worried about it being pulled out. Same thing why the concussion history that I have, it's an estimate based off of operational history, because they can't throw me in that same machine and image my brain.
Oh, whoa.
Because it's spitting magnets, and
right.
I mean, there's metal all over the left-hand side of my pelvis, and I don't know how much it would have to move, but if it just clipped that nerve again, it was probably one of the more difficult times in my life. My leg felt like it was on fire 24 hours a day, which I could ignore during the daytime, but where it got me was at nighttime. I would lay down in bed, and it just felt like I had dipped my leg in gas and put a lighter onto it. So I was on high dosages of like gabapentin and Neurontin, which are central nervous system suppressors. So I started feeling the cognitive effect of that. So I backed myself off of that. Wasn't in a great phase of my life. So I was, of course, washing those down with massive amounts of alcohol, taking 3 to 4 Ambien, staying awake because my tolerance to all that stuff was so high. And the last thing I ever want to do is go through that again. So I'm going to stay away from the spinning magnets and just...
Jesus.
Because, I mean, it might be a quarter of an inch, and I'd be exactly right back where I was before.
And there's no way they can go in and pull those fragments out?
So I'm laying in the hospital in Baghdad. And the night that I got hurt, many other people got hurt. 8 people got hurt on that particular target. I was one of the least injured. There were people who immediately flown into surgery. A guy almost lost his arm. A guy he was right next to an explosive blast that literally peeled back the layers of his ballistic helmet. He was conscious but blind. He'd taken such a shot to his head. He got ejected out the backside of a building. There was some other gunshot wounds. So I'm laying in the hospital bed. I hadn't taken any morphine because I had watched too many movies, and I thought if I had auto-injector syrettes on me at all times, but I thought if I had jabbed myself, I was going to start drooling. No experience with whatsoever. And the doctors finally start working on me, and he says, all right, we're going to take a look at this. I'm going to basically stick my finger in the hole. And I was like, let's take a pause here, sir. Can I have some pain medication? So he comes out and just juices me with morphine. First time I've ever had it. I wish I would have taken it in the field. It did almost nothing. And they played around a little bit with the holes and then slid me into an x-ray machine and said, do you want us to try to take this out? And I said, well, what is that going to entail? And he said, well, because we can tell that there's ferrous metal in here, what we would do is we would knock you out, put a tube down your throat, lay you on your stomach, and hold up a two-dimensional x-ray and basically just start slicing and pulling apart, looking and searching for these metal pieces and pulling them out of your body one at a time. And I said, is there another option? He's like, oh, yeah, totally. The body will encapsulate it in calcium, and as long as it's not touching a bone, you're probably going to be fine. What the fuck, man? Why didn't you lead with that option?
Right. Well, did they think they were going to be able to get them all out, though, if they did go in there and start slicing away?
I don't know. And I don't know what benefit it would have had. I suspect it would have caused more damage than the actual injury itself. My hip is fine. I still have never had a surgery. I've still never broken a bone. The only thing they ever did was put a gauze pad on my leg, and when the scab fell off, I could start taking a bath again if I wanted to.
Wow.
Yep. They just left everything in there.
Jesus. That's crazy. It's all covered.
It was bizarre.
Wow. So if you do have an injury now, is it a lot of guesswork? Like if something's wrong with your leg, do they have to like go in there with a scope? Like since you can't get an MRI, like what if you blew your knee out?
They would have to rely on imagery technology that doesn't revolve around magnets.
Wow.
So most likely, I think they gave me a CAT scan in the hospital, so that I don't think is magnet based, and then two-dimensional x-ray.
Well, it's interesting, too, because some of the therapies they're using on people for TBI is
magnets.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're as powerful as an MRI. I mean, you can't even wear earrings in those rooms.
Well, yeah, with an MRI.
Yeah.
I had heard about some kid who accidentally died because they had an oxygen tank in the room, and they turned the machine on, and the tanks slammed into him and crushed him.
Yeah. I've heard about the TBI magnets. That I think I would be fine with because I don't think it has the power that the huge machines do.